Hello everybody and welcome to the podcast of the Nova Africa Student Group. Your hosts today are Joanna and Julia, and we spoke with Manuel Aranda da Silva. He has been serving as the Deputy Special Representative to the Secretary General and was responsible for the humanitarian aspects of the UN mission of Sudan. Before, he also worked for the World Food Programme and the government of Mozambique, and gained experiences in very different countries and occupations that he is sharing with us today. So we hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for your time for having this interview, and thank you very much for the presentation. When we researched your CV, we basically found that as a minister in Mozambique, you worked on a civil administration and local government system. So our question is related to what do you think are the challenges the country is facing today with respect to what you have been doing before?
As a minister, I was Minister of Trade and Tourism, Industry and Tourism. But I worked before being a minister in civil administration. So it's a quite different country. There is more economic growth, more inequality. The Guinea is worse than it used to be, but it's much more resources available than it was before. So it means that also what gets to people is higher per capita in general, but also even if the Guinea is not so good, is better than before because economic growth has created potential. The public administration is quite different. I think Mozambique was probably one of the few countries in Africa with zero corruption up to 86, for 10 years, 11 years during independence, at all levels, from driver to president and to minister. And that has changed. The adjustment program has brought a new kind of approach to life. And the privatization has created logically a new dimension to things. And the corruption as is also part of when it comes from, it's part of example from the top many times. And when the society gets corrupt at different levels, then if there is it's like cancer. If you don't start from the beginning, you are dead. You need to fight it from the beginning. At the early beginning, you cannot let it grow. Otherwise, it's much more difficult. But it's different. It's more economic growth. Life is better today than it used to be because there was so much economic growth. It could be better if distribution was better.
Another question that we would like to ask you is that you mentioned in your presentation that there's a missing link between economic growth and social development in Mozambique. What do you think that are the causes for this, and how can the country overcome it?
Economic growth in Mozambique. How you define economic is the growth of the GDP. And what happened is that the growth of the GDP in Mozambique is very much driven by 5 investments, mega projects. Defining mega projects as $1,000 million project investment. The gas of Inhamban, Mosal, the TET coal, different investments on coal, gas, and the heavy sands in Mana. And this means it's concentrated in a few areas, as creating growth on the people, on the GDP, but not on the overall, and that is not transfer automatic to the overall society. So that is a problem. Also because for logical reasons, there was not an interest of Mozambique as a direct destiny of direct foreign investment in the past. So in the beginning, to attract, the government has been very generous on fiscal exemptions. And so the transfer through the fiscal process or through even to links with national companies has been too small. So that is why one thing that's corresponds to the other one.
And what do you think have been the specific problems in the agricultural sector in Mozambique?
that is one of the main sectors, because 70% of the population lives there, on rural areas, and lives off the income that comes from agriculture. It's not only living in rural areas, they live from the income in agriculture. There are many problems. The main one is productivity. It's very low. And the reason why it's very low is because the access to services, financial service, but also to inputs, fertilizers, improved seeds, and to outcome of research and technical support that brings new innovation to, is not there. It's also a problem with the property that is not still a serious problem, but can become very soon because of the growth of the population and the concessions given to huge private companies on the rural area for biofuel, for sugar, for tobacco, for other things, cotton. So that can lead to a very serious problem. But the lack of a certain more clear rights on property also is important for people to have access to finance, because land can be a collateral, but today can't. It's not a collateral. Mozambique, at any reason, is not considered a collateral for any bank in Mozambique. So that is for few, but commercial, people buy and sell. But the fact that the productivity is so low, if we can increase, and in the production of maize in Zambia and Malawi, the productivity of the small farmer sector is 2.5 times higher than in Mozambique. If you can do that in Mozambique, you can have a huge increase on the income of that sector. Connect that sector with the market as a seller and as a buyer. That will stimulate the industry also, because they can buy more. So it is a critical element of development in Mozambique.
And the fourth question is regarding your professional experience. I'm not sure if you're currently working to United Nations in Sudan, or if you've recently been working, and if you can tell us a little bit of your challenges there and your experience.
I've worked for government in Mozambique for many years, but also before that for irrigation scheme for the province and the districts and with the rural communities. But with the UN, I finished. I'm done with that. I still connected, because once it's there, we are always connected. But my last job was very much at strategic and policy level of World Food Programme in Rome, and being advisor of the executive director and deputy executive director for certain period also. But it's very different. I work in China on rural integrated development programs on the end of the 80s and beginning of the 90s. The main experience was humanitarian response. I was working in Sudan twice as head of the humanitarian response to Sudan in 92, when there was a big drought, and Kofi Annan called me for Darfur in 2005 to lead the UN there on that response in Darfur. I spent my 3 years there. But also in Angola, but also as was in New York headquarters, in the 36th floor, very close to the 38, as director for complex emergencies at MINCO. Emergency derived from conflicts. And that was an awful experience, crossing Atlantic every month, 2 or 3 times every month. But dealt with the Eastern Zaire, could have been avoided. That's a long story. But with Rwanda, genocide after, and Burundi and Somalia and Ethiopia. So I was based in Ethiopia also in 2000. I was based in Dakar for West Africa. The land in Liberia, in Monrovia, there were still bodies in our warehouses there. So was very different experience. Some development, some high-level policy, G8, G20s, Davos, but policy and operational. The big reward when you know that because you have done not individual, but as a group, as the UN, you prevent so many 100,000 of people to die here and there, and I'm sure about that. This gives me my compensation for everything.
May I ask you about the Enjoyed More, which was...
I loved my work in China in 89, 92 because the results were evident. Beijing were doing things different from that they used to do, but they were open to change. So it was, and we brought new technology, and there were rural integrated development projects where forestry, irrigation, and improvement of land and redistribution of land was all integrated in one go. And I have one project that was beautiful, in very far from Beijing, almost in the border with Mongolia and Kazakhstan. So in Altai, a place called Altai, if you look in the map, you're going to see it took me 3 days to get there from Beijing. But on Tibet, first project, international project in Tibet, after the emergent state was left. And that was rebuilding the traditional built centuries ago of irrigation schemes for the Tibetans and make them rebuilding the way they did. And that was beautiful. But, so China was beautiful. But in Mozambique, for example, my most beautiful job was in an irrigation scheme in 76 that was abandoned because of Portuguese colonies that had left. And my job was to redistribute the land to the Mozambicans of that original owners. And it was beautiful. It was 1 year process, but it was real beautiful. But there was also this humanitarian, negotiating the first ceasefire in Angola that led to the Lusaka peace agreement, and be able to present the reconstruction plan in Brussels with Savimbi, Dos Santos, and the King of Belgium present, and Wall being the middle matter for that. So that was very rewarding, and then got this phone to go to New York. I have never been in New York. I'm a big person in New York. I've never even visited once before. So it was a big shock from Angola to New York. But knowing a lot of very interesting people that are much better than me on commitment and dedication, and are not known, but are wonderful people everywhere. So my wife always tells me that I'm a very positive. You are so naive, you never see bad things in the people. But if you try to see the good things, forget about bad things. Why am I going to look for the bad things? I'm looking for the good things in other people. So and that is how I feel it. So if you have the very big reward, I look back, I don't feel that I'm over with my life, but I don't regret anything. And some of my years were extremely bad, but this was not professional. It was when I became a refugee, and I was a political refugee for some time, and was hard. And I was leader of the Portuguese students in the 70s, and escaped in a very almost died that way. And I had a bad moment when I got where I got before being accepted as a refugee. So it made me humble and able to understand. And this is very important to you people. Don't forget, everybody has something very good. And everybody has an important story behind it. Even the person that you say, oh, what boring to be a bank employee or to be. But if you dig and speak with him and you go down, you may discover something you don't know. And everybody, and even some person who doesn't know how to write and read, but they know things that you don't know. You need to be humble and be able to learn from others and give to others, but learn from others. That makes you very strong. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you very much for your time and answering our questions.
Thank you.